Hello, Saints. Welcome in for this week's version of the midweek video, continuing a little bit of an unusual approach in that we're maintaining a topic, that being the Beatitudes. This week I wanted to look briefly at the Beatitude when Jesus said to his disciples and those others listening, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled." The question we have to ask ourselves is, what are you hungering and thirsting for? What is it that drives your life? What is it that causes you to get up in the morning, and what is it that you think about? This is what the psalmist said. He said, "In the morning, O Lord, you will hear my voice. In the morning, I will order my prayer to you, and I will eagerly watch." We have to ask ourselves the question, what is it that drives us? Are we seeking after a pursuit of possessions? Now, obviously, in the Western world, that's something we always deal with. Are we seeking a religious pursuit of an experience? And I think personally that there are far too many Christians, especially those of us who would consider ourselves part of the charismatic movement world, seeking a religious pursuit of an experience. We run from one preacher to another. We run from one conference to another, from one meeting to meeting. And what we're seeking is a blessing from God. What we're seeking is a spiritual experience. Let me hasten to add that a blessing from God and a spiritual experience are not bad things. But if that's all we're seeking for, then we have our seeker misplaced. What do we hunger and thirst for? Well, Jesus said we should hunger, and I'll return to hunger and thirsting in a moment. He said we should hunger and thirst after righteousness. Not just hunger and thirst after religious things, and not just hunger and thirst after revelation and wisdom. And again, all of those are good things. But we need to get things into proper order. And he said that blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Mary, in her Magnificat, sang, "It's the hungry that are filled, and those who are not hungry will not be filled." Maybe you feel unfulfilled. Maybe you feel there's a lack in your life because you have been hungering and thirsting after the wrong thing. More importantly, the wrong person. Righteousness is a word that in the Old English was called right wiseness. Right wiseness, and that was sort of to be familiar or acquainted with someone, or to have an experience with someone, right wiseness. And so we look at righteousness, and we have to look at it in two terms. And the first one is imputed righteousness. When you were born again, when you were born from above by the Spirit of God, you received in that moment the imputed righteousness of Christ. In other words, he deposited his righteousness into your account. And when God the Father goes to withdraw from your account, he withdraws the righteousness of Christ. Because he who knew no sin, who is Jesus Christ, became sin so that you and I could become the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus, 2 Corinthians 5. And so there is the matter that you and I walk around with the imputed righteousness of Jesus Christ at all times. But we're in this verse, I think we're talking about a right standing or a right relationship with God. And while we can walk and get into heaven with an imputed righteousness, we need to make sure now that we maintain a right relationship. My wife and I are married. October we'll be married 50 years. And, if we had an argument or if we were separated emotionally and we weren't speaking to one another, we'd still be married, but there would be a problem with the relationship. Being in right relationship with God the Father enables us to achieve a moral righteousness, a working righteousness that correctly represents him in the earth, a right relationship with God. And I think Jesus was addressing our necessity for a relationship of right standing with the Father, the same Father who gives us imputed righteousness. Jesus uses the terms hunger and thirst as analogies, as examples of our desire. These are appetites that are frequently, that are returned frequently. You and I don't know about you, I get hungry several times a day. I get thirsty and call for, we need a fresh satisfaction. Well, in the same manner, we hunger and thirst after righteousness, and we will continually do that. When we're talking about hunger and thirst, we're talking about hunger for that which sustains. It doesn't do any good to get hungry and receive something that doesn't sustain us. I wrote this down a long time ago. I don't remember how or when, but anyway, I wrote this down. If we don't hunger and thirst after righteousness, by the way, Luke's version in that verse says, "Blessed are those of you who hunger now. Blessed are those of you who hunger now, for you'll be filled." If we don't hunger and thirst after righteousness, we will cease being functioning, contributing people of God and find ourselves on the trash heap of life, just waiting to go to heaven. I hope you're not just waiting to go to heaven. I'm not just waiting to go to heaven. I'm going to go, but I'm not just sitting around waiting for that to happen. But I'm wanting to be productive now. Now, what keeps us from being hungry? Well, there's a lot of things, but first of all, not recognizing that we are deficient in and of ourselves. We dealt with that in the first beatitude. We must empty ourselves to make room for God's righteousness. If we think we're fulfilled in ourselves, there's no reason for us to allow God to come in. Another thing that will keep us from being hungry is misplaced hunger. We hunger for the wrong things, and so we're not hungering for righteousness. We're just hungering. And another thing is spiritual obesity. And what is spiritual obesity? It's the taking in of teaching and revelation and preaching and never exporting anything. Export what you receive. The reason the Dead Sea is dead is because water flows in, but nothing flows out, and thus it makes it dead. So what keeps us from being thirsty? Well, a lot of times what keeps us from being thirsty is drinking from the wrong fountain. We drink and re-drink and re-drink, but we're never satisfied, and that's because we're seeking the righteousness of God. And as Johnny Lee said in his country music song, all the wrong places. Sometimes we are looking for satisfaction in our successes and our achievements. We're looking for satisfaction in approval from mankind. Sometimes busyness keeps us from being thirsty because we have a lack of realization of really what we need. Sometimes we don't slow down long enough to realize we have need. Jesus said, "I have spoken to you, the words I've spoken to you are spirit and are life." That's what we should hunger for. We should hunger for the righteousness of God in Jesus Christ. We should recognize that hungering and thirsting is what causes us to be filled and to fulfill our thirst. Are you seeking a right relationship with God every day? Are you seeking Him out every day? Is that what you wake up to? I'll finish with something else I wrote, which connects the other Beatitudes together, and it goes like this. Blessed are the poor in spirit. We're recognizing our need or deficiency. And then we have an emotion of mourning as a result of dealing in reality. Blessed are those who mourn. And then putting ourselves, along with all of our strengths, under the control and discipline of the mighty hand of God, blessed are the meek, leads us to a place of hungering and thirsting for that which truly sustains and refreshes, and that is a right relationship with God. So we've moved everything else out of the way, and we've made room for us to be hungry and thirsty for that relationship with God. I hope this helps you in your Christian walk today. May you have a great week and a great day, and then you can go out there and act like somebody. Good day.